morning, everyone. Welcome to the Committee on Commerce and Consumer Protection. We have a number of items on our agenda, one bill and some SCRs, SRs. So we will get started. Our first measure is House Bill 599, House Draft 1. This relates to association governance and clarifies when planned community associations may conduct meetings remotely, authorizes condo associations to do the same, and that they can use mail-in voting when there has been a state or local state of emergency declared. The first testifier, I believe, is joining us on Zoom, and yes, I see his bright and shiny face there, Mr. Steve Glenstein. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. The gated community behind me is not my residence.
I was wondering about that. Thanks for that disclaimer. We were starting to worry about you.
Just wanted to make sure. So, I'll be rather brief. We do support the House Bill 599, House Draft 1, and we did find a couple of amendments, relatively minor in our view. One was with respect to planned community associations, just putting in a comma, fixing up the issue regarding annual and regular meetings, recognizing that planned community associations can have regular meetings that are not annual, and that just makes it clear. The second one, part of our testimony, has to do with the authority to allow condominium associations to conduct electronic meetings. We saw there was a bit of a circular reference where subsection B was notwithstanding anything else in the chapter, and then the proposed subsection E was notwithstanding subsection B. So there's some clarification, I believe, was submitted by Ann Anderson, and we support the clarification.
Okay.
I'm available for questions if you wish.
Thank you, Steve. Our next testifier I also see on Zoom is one who often weighs in on these matters, Mr. Philip Nerney, Hawaii Legislative Action Committee, CAI. Good morning, Philip.
Thank you, Chair Baker, Vice Chair, and committee members. CAI supports HB 599, House Draft 1 with the tweaks that Minister Glenstein just testified to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We have Mike Galoyo Sr., Palehua Townhouse Association, sent in testimony and support. Richard Emery from Associa, testimony and support. The resident manager of Honolulu Tower, AOAO, sent testimony and support. Atlanta Dove, Honolulu Tower, AOAO in support. Jane Sugimura, Hawaii Council of Association of Apartment Owners in support. Lynn Matasau as an individual in support. R. Larry McGuire in support. Ann Anderson in support. Mr. Paul Ireland Kotanoff in support, and Lance Fujisaki. All of the testifiers that we have. Anybody that is on the Zoom or conference this morning that we missed? If not, members, any questions for Mr. Glenstein or Ms. Nerney? None? Okay. All right. Thank you guys very much for joining us. We'll be recommending to pass this measure with amendments in case you are wondering and don't want to necessarily stick around for the rest. Okay, let's go to SCR 161, SR 126. This is supporting and urging the inclusion of gender transition treatments and services as medically necessary for the purpose of healthcare insurance coverage. Let's see. We have testimony from Michael Galoyo Jr., LGBT Caucus, Democratic Party of Hawaii. Good morning, Mr. Galoyo.
Good morning, happy Aloha Friday. Oh, today's Thursday, sorry.
I know, I've been wanting it to be Friday too, but.
Well, you get tomorrow off, right?
That's right, thank you, Prince Kuhio.
On behalf of the LGBT Caucus, Michael Galoyo Jr. as chair. On behalf of the caucus, we want to thank you for hearing this resolution. It is desperately needed. We did, in our testimony, ask for a couple of amendments to address the issues that were brought up at a previous hearing on the bill on the House side, as required by statute for any new requirements, as I'm sure you're all well aware of, that any new requirements under the insurance that requires a sunrise audit, and that is what we're requesting to insert that, to be able to follow the law, to get this done, so we can make sure that the transgender community has the coverage that they desperately need, and their insurance companies should be paying for when it comes to transition services. And I will be available for questions. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you. We have Madeline Cisparasa from Hawaii Human Rights Commission in support. Laurie Field, Planned Parenthood in support. Cameron Miyamoto, LGBTQ Plus Center, UH Manoa in support. Michael Glorio Sr., Rainbow Family 808 in support. Mandy Fernandez, ACLU Hawaii in support. Sam Brinton, the Trevor Project in support. And a number of individuals whose names I will read, and all of these are in support. Brianna Zoe, Shayna, Kalani Bright, Thaddeus Pham, Dr. Lawrence Frank, Jen Jennings, Wendy Vaughn, I think that's probably a typo, Atai Bradshaw Lane, Nikki Ann Yee, Kamawela Werner, Kunani Dreyer, Wallace Engberg, Linda Kim, Eileen McKee, Andrea Quinn, Sarah Michael Hammond, Affirm Hawaii, Roque Almos Oha, and the Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center. Anybody else who happens to be joining us wishing to testify?
Hi, this is Brianna Zoe. I just wanted to make sure you're not going to skip over my verbal testimony here.
I called your name, I believe.
You did call my name, sorry. I didn't realize that was the chance for me to speak up. My apologies. So my name is Brianna. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm just a fairly average trans woman, and I will be around for questions after if you folks have any. Many people in the trans community simply can't afford to pay for procedures out of pocket that are necessary for their physical well-being and mental health. All this does is reinforce a feeling of being undervalued by society, and worse, it drives people into financial debt, depression, and self-harm. Can you imagine living every single day in a body that feels so foreign to you with little opportunity to make life better? It is horrible, but that is my reality every single day. I'm incurring significant financial debt right now because I need to pay for much of my own medical care that should be covered by insurance. I don't really have any other options either because I can go into tens of thousands of dollars of financial debt and get the care that I need, or I cannot get the care that I need and probably end up killing myself as a result sometime down the line. I've been personally discriminated against by my insurance company so much that I was literally on the brink of ending my life recently. I think HMSA is probably out there somewhere watching this hearing, and I want to send a very clear message to them as well as our legislators. Please let your decision makers, leaders, and legal teams know that what you are doing right now is literally making people want to end their lives. And ask yourself, is that really the position you want to be putting people like me in?
Ma'am,
my suicide note?
You need
Yes.
to be addressing this and not disparaging anybody else. That's not what these hearings are for. You advocate for a position for yourself, but you don't denigrate anybody else, okay? So
Understood.
if you have any additional comments that are specific to these resolutions, please state them now or we have your testimony.
Sure. Thank you very much. I will end right now that this matter is pretty simple. For people who work and pay for health insurance, it really should cover basic health needs, and we are still continuing to miss that mark. I fully support this resolution and everything that it represents, and I'm sorry, I am so freaking mad, but thank you for the time.
Thank you. I will just note, I've been in this business for a very long time, and people that get mad and go afield of what they're doing really hurt their cause. So just a word to the wise for the future. Is there anybody else? I see another face.
I would like to testify.
I'm sorry, say again?
I would like to testify.
Please
Connie
say
Bright.
who you are.
My name is Connie Bright.
Okay, please
Okay,
proceed.
so Aloha
We did call your name as well, but please proceed. So we have your testimony.
Yeah, so I'm a retransitioner, meaning I male to female to male to female. I transitioned and I detransitioned over 20 years ago. I can say without any question that not much has changed in the medical area in the last 20 years. I faced violence discrimination, work discrimination. I was unable to find employment. A lot of this has to do with how trans people are treated, both because they do not pass, their voices are male. I've had jobs that were created for me, removed from me because of this. I've had, anyway, I couldn't hold it in anymore, and since 2009 I've been retransitioning. In 2019 I found out that I actually have intersex genetics, that I have a weird aromatase, and I have XY sex reversal 9, the genetic signs of it without the physical manifestation, i.e. XY males that would normally be born with vaginas. In realizing this, I had, try to access care. Hormones were denied to me because my baseline estradiol was over that of a woman. I actually sought care outside of the state, and I'm seeking care. I've come out of pocket for procedures regarding FFS and voice feminization surgeries. I believe that, people have more sympathy for a child because there's genetic signs of gender dysphoria. So people have more sympathy for a child born with a cleft lip, and that's medically necessary and is considered a birth defect. But a birth defect for a transgender person is only witnessed by that person, and a transgender child is looked at as being disgusting for their choice. I'm here to say it's not a choice. I've lived and I've suffered through it. I've also had similar feelings. Over 40% of trans people have tried to commit suicide. It's in relationship to not being welcome or fit in by society. It's on the same lines of, and I've had personal experience of people saying, I'm a pedophile and it's a bestiality, prostitution. I am a moral individual, and I have always been my whole life. I've always tried to make things better. My personal contribution and that of other transgender people is that we can change the world. I currently might be getting a little bit famous because of my work for Hawaiian language and allowing anybody to caption any movie online mako Hawaii on Netflix. And I just want to say that there's so many people that can have so many positive impacts on this world that they're just given a chance to be themselves and who they truly are. So mahalo for your time.
Thank you for
that's my
testifying
testimony.
on this measure. We appreciate it. I see another face on the call. Can you please identify yourself if you're wishing to testify on Senate Concurrent Resolution 161 or SR 126, their companions and pairs?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. My name is Sarah DeBay. I'm actually a 19-year military service member, veteran, currently stationed up at Schofield Barracks, and I did come out last fall to my family, friends, and the military, which is a whole other issue. But yeah, I saw this bill being proposed and jumped on the opportunity to definitely testify and show my support for it as being a part of the transgender community. So I do plan on retiring in the next year, and I intend to stay in Hawaii. I've generally found it more transgender friendly already than some other states I've been in. And I really hope that with the passage of this bill, we can continue to move forward in the right direction of equality and individuals like myself being able to obtain medical care without constantly having to battle with the insurance companies through multiple denials, multiple appeals, sometimes taking years to get eventually approved for. I've heard, I have not experienced that. Personally, I have paid out of pocket through a great organization, Planned Parenthood, to obtain care for my well-being. And I also recently got a job at Starbucks simply to assist in the process of obtaining that care. They're a great organization as well that is very transgender supportive as far as medical care. They do pick up the bill, so to say. So I'm very fortunate to have that opportunity to work for them and continuing forward. And in my mind, if the insurance company will cover an individual that needs a kidney transplant that could essentially be on dialysis for years, it's medically necessary. And if a medical provider says, hey, transition is medically necessary for this individual diagnosed with gender dysphoria, then why does the insurance company get a buy-in on whether or not that care is given or not. I mean, both of them, same issue. We can go and see therapists weekly, or the individual that needs a kidney transplant can go get dialysis weekly. And if it's needed for them, no questions asked, they get the transplant when it becomes available. Then why don't we get the same respect for when it's deemed medically necessary for our treatment? I appreciate your time and giving me the opportunity to speak on this. And I really just, one last time, urge you to advocate for the passing of this proposal going forward. Mahalo.
Thank you so much. I just want to be clear for everybody that's on the call. These are resolutions. They state opinions of the Senate and the House, but they don't change law. Oftentimes we use a resolution when an issue has come before us and we've passed the bill introduction deadline, but it does state the position of the legislature if it starts in the Senate, passes, goes over to the House, and passes. So for some of the issues that have been brought up to us this morning on this particular pair of resolutions, for policy to change, we will need to come back next year and introduce a bill that would do that. But this lays the foundation for that, so thank you very much for your testimony. I hope that adds some clarity. Okay, thanks so much. Anybody else that I glossed over as I was reading names that wants to comment on Senate Concurrent Resolution 161 and SR 126? If not, members, shall we go to the next item on our agenda? This is SCR 179, SR 144, requesting the formation of a working group to examine the governance and maintenance of shared areas in a non-planned community subdivision. And let's see. We have testimony and support from Richard Emery, Associate. Richard, are you on the call? From Laurie Field, Planned Parenthood. Barbara Arthurs. Lynette Quaid, Ralph Boyer, Cheryl Watson. I see a face on there. Did you wish to testify on this measure? Did you submit testimony? Next for the next one? Okay. Unfortunately, Senator San Buenaventura, there's nobody to ask any questions if you had any. So we'll go forward to the next pair of resolutions. This is SCR 194, SR 159, requesting the Legislative Reference Bureau to conduct a review regarding the performance of incidental and supplemental contracting work. We have joining us on Zoom, Candace Ito, DCCA, PBL, Contractors Licensing Board. Good morning,
Good morning, Chair Baker. Okay. Good morning,
Sorry,
Chair
I didn't
Baker.
recognize you.
And Vice Chair Chang and members of the committee. I'm Candace Ito. I'm the Executive Officer of the Contractors License Board, and the board stands in opposition of this resolution, and they firmly believe that it's not necessary. The board also notes that if a study is to be conducted, it should include all specialty classifications and afford representatives from the various contractor classifications to provide input. And if the LRB is required to solicit input from entities that are not contractors, such as construction unions, it should likewise solicit input from the contractor associations. And I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, thanks, Candace. We had some testimony offering comments from LRB. Anybody else here wishing to offer comments on SCR 194, SR 159? Members, any questions for Candace? If not, I believe this brings us to the end of this agenda. So thank you to all the testifiers who joined us. We're going to take a brief recess and do some decision making. Good morning, everyone. Again, we'll reconvene the Committee on Commerce and Consumer Protection for purposes of decision-making on the items that we just heard in our hearing. On House Bill 599, House Draft 1, the recommendation is to pass this with technical amendments recommended by SMA and amendments requested by the Hawaii State Association of Parliamentarians Legislative Committee, and provide it with a clean effective date of 1/1/2022. Any questions or comments? The Senate bill didn't move in the House. If not, chair votes aye. Pass with amendments, chair votes aye.
Senator Chang,
Aye.
Senator Misalucha,
Aye.
Nishar goes aye, Senator Revere,
Aye.
Senator San Ventura,
Aye.
Senator Favela.
I don't believe he's joining us this morning.
Okay, excuse. Motion's adopted.
Okay, thank you, members. On SCR 161, SR 126, the chair recommends that we pass this pair of resolutions with amendments to request a sunrise analysis and language suggesting the LGBT caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii. So the recommendation is to pass with those amendments. Any questions or comments? If not, chair votes aye.
Senator Chang,
Aye.
Senator Misalucha,
Aye.
Senator Nishar goes aye, Senator Revere,
Aye.
Senator San Ventura,
Aye.
Senator Favela, excuse. Motion's adopted.
SR 179, SR 144 has to do with doing some work on non-planned community subdivisions. And I know this is an issue on one of our members' islands. But in speaking with DCCA, I think rather than trying to do a working group now, I'd like to defer this indefinitely and work with the author as well as the Real Estate Commission, or if there's another more appropriate agency in DCCA, to see how best we can do this. I'm not certain that a working group without involving some others is actually going to be provide the best clarity and get us something so that we might be able to deal with it next year. So, Senator, that's my recommendation. Okay?
And I appreciate the chair hearing the resolution, and I'm glad that you have been educated about the problems in my community. Thank you.
Yeah,
And I look forward to working with you, Chair, for next
okay,
session.
okay. Yeah, we'll do some work in the interim. We are still in a committee hearing. This is CPN. Okay, so on SCR 179 and SR 144, we are going to defer this one indefinitely, and we're going to be doing some interim work on this issue. The next item is SCR 194, SR 159. This is requesting the Legislative Reference Bureau to conduct a review regarding the performance of incidental and supplemental contracting work. After getting some additional information from the author, the recommendation is to defer this measure indefinitely. We have some other work in the interim to do on this one. So that brings us to the end of this agenda. We have about 4 minutes, I think, until we need to, we can convene our next hearing at 10 o'clock, and then we have one at 10:10. So I'm going to adjourn this one. We're going to wait a few minutes and then be ready for our 10 o'clock agenda. Adjourn.
None of us are showing up for
Good morning, everyone. We have a 10 o'clock joint hearing with the Committee on Commerce and Consumer Protection and the Committee on Economic Development and Energy, Economic Development and Tourism. And we have one item on our joint agenda with CPN as the lead committee. That is SCR 248, SR 207, requesting that the Public Utilities Commission develop and adopt reliability standards and interconnection requirements to facilitate the timely interconnection of utility-scale renewable energy projects. And let's see. For this resolution, we have testimony from the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. Do we have any?
Aloha and
Please proceed.
Aloha and good morning, Chair Baker, Chair Wakai, Vice Chairs, and members of the committee. You have our written testimony offering comments, and we stand on it, but I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dean. Let's see. We have testimony from the PUC. Good morning, Jay.
Good morning, Chair, Chair Baker, Chair Wakai, Vice Chairs, members of the committee. You have our testimony on the resolution in support. I just want to highlight a few different items of importance for this, for all members of the committee, for both committees. It's a very serious matter. The project's delay here, the project delays discussed here are going to affect everyone on the islands of Oahu, Maui, and Hawaii Island. The projects that we're talking about were the lowest cost projects, lowest cost renewable projects in state history. So all these delays we're going to pay for because we're going to use more oil during the term of the delay. And we can't tell you what that cost is going to be because it depends on what the price of oil is at that time. And that's exactly the position that we're trying to avoid. So the Commission's been very concerned about this for a while. As these projects came before it, we reviewed and approved almost all of them, save one that was opposed by a community group in record time. So we've been working and trying to track these up until last fall. We were informed about them last fall. We've taken a series of actions to try and course correct and bring them forward. And we haven't gotten the response that we've needed to see things get back online. So I testified before these committees earlier in the year. We were concerned about some of the measures proposed, particularly the HERA entity, particularly the cost of that. And given our record here, I think, as I noted in our testimony, and we noted in the order we issued yesterday, we're going out for requests for information on that entity. Chair Wakai, you talked about that entity as a traffic cop. I think to be slightly more accurate, I would look at that as paying overtime. And as we look at that entity going forward, we don't want customers to pay for that overtime. We're going to look at how we structure the funding for that entity to make sure that's not the case. So I'll leave it at that. You have our testimony. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay. We have testimony in opposition from Colton, Ching, Hawaiian Electric. Please proceed,
Chair
Colton.
Baker, good morning, everyone. Chair Baker, thank you. Chairs, Vice Chairs Chang and Misa Lucha, members of the committee. My name is Colton Ching, and I am testifying on behalf of Hawaiian Electric, respectfully in opposition to these resolutions. First, I would like to emphasize that we at Hawaiian Electric are committed to the aggressive transition from fossil fuel generation to renewable generation by bringing these stage 1 and stage 2 projects online as soon as possible. These projects that Chair Griffin just referenced. And we're committed to doing our part to accelerate them. While we understand the significance of the issues in SCR 248 and SR 207, and really we do agree with the objectives of these resolutions to accelerate renewable projects, Hawaiian Electric does have concerns that the changes proposed by these resolutions could add time and cost to the interconnection process and has the potential to reduce ultimately the number of projects that successfully achieve operation. In relation to the discussion around the interconnection process, it's important for these two committees to know that the Governor's Office recently convened a task force to address the retirement of the coal plant on Oahu and the Kahui Power Plant on Maui. And that the task force will include all stakeholders and members of the public, including but not limited to the Hawaii Public Utilities Commission, utilities, and developers. Hawaiian Electric does understand the deep economic and environmental importance of streamlining the interconnection process to accelerate these and other renewable energy projects, and it's currently doing everything possible within its control to accelerate renewable energy in the state. In fact, Hawaiian Electric has already taken steps towards improving the interconnection process, and improvements have been shown with the stage 2, the second tranche of RFP projects in comparison to the stage 1 projects. One of these improvements, providing developers with detailed documentation up front so that they can develop and submit quality facility models, has really shortened the process of the interconnection work by 5 months for these stage 2 projects. And we're also looking at finding other ways to further improve and speed up this process, and is open to feedback from stakeholders on how to do so. One such possibility that we did receive and the company is considering is taking on the responsibility of doing the design, construction, and taking on the cost of much of the interconnection facilities. Another is to introduce in future RFPs a baseline cost for these interconnection scenarios that can be used by developers to more accurately estimate and account for their interconnection costs. We are also taking action outside of the interconnection process itself, which can also aid in the acceleration of the projects, including committing to shorter review cycles by expediting our engineering reviews of engineering designs by the project developers, and working with state and county permitting agencies to streamline permits needed by these projects. However, timely and successful interconnection of a project depends on all stakeholders involved working together. The interconnection process must have the flexibility to adjust to changes due to permitting requirements, financing restrictions, community feedback and comments, and other impacts that could impact the fundamental design of an interconnection and the change in scope and timing of the interconnection process. And this is not a hypothetical. These are real things that we've already been experienced. And this really gets to the point where the need for flexibility in allowing for changes to the projects. And many of these changes are good changes, such as developers making changes to their designs and modifying their project designs based on community feedback. But making these changes, making these adjustments can cause delays in the interconnection process. And setting rigid deadlines by statute could create a deterrent to implementing these kinds of desirable changes. I'll give you one instance, a real instance. In response to community feedback, a developer working on a stage 1 project on Maui came to us proposing a reconfiguration of their project. The changes include moving the location of the interconnection facilities where the project connects to the grid, to optimize land use, decreasing the total footprint of the project, as well as increasing the distance between the project and visible roadways. So while the reconfiguration based upon this change caused a delay in executing the interconnection, what's called an interconnection requirements amendment, and the filing of an overhead line approval request, we believe that this configuration will ultimately save a considerable amount of time in the engineering and design phase, as well as in the permitting process, and potentially achieve an earlier operational date that would have been achieved if the developer stuck with their original design and faced continued challenges from the community, especially during the permitting and construction phases of the project. Lastly, we do respectfully request that these resolutions consider other alternatives to achieve the objectives for interconnections. Just to give one example, is to consider modifying the request for proposal process such that it can be focused on specific project locations and even specific renewable energy technologies. So things like community input can be factored into the RFP requirements, and that interconnection work can be determined in advance of the project bids, giving greater certainty and shorter timeframes for the interconnections. Such a focus can also benefit the developers and local communities in which these projects could be developed. So that concludes my testimony. Thank you, committees, chairs, vice chairs. Mahalo for this opportunity, and like the others, I'll be available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to reiterate for everyone, these are resolutions. They're not amending any statute. We're not amending any laws. We're just trying to get some information and get some feedback on which we might be able to make changes next year. We also have testimony from Frederick Riddell, Hawaii Clean Power Alliance. In support, we have testimony from Charles Ice, Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii, in support. Is there anybody on the Zoom that failed to notify us that they were going to be there and it wants to testify? If not, I'll ask if there are any members of any of the on the joint committees that wanted to have questions. We have both the PUC chair as well as the representative from Hawaiian elected, if there are questions. Members, any questions? If not, yes, Senator.
Thank you, Chair. Jay, a couple of questions for you.
Senator.
I'm reading through your testimony, and you talk about how you've reduced the interconnection timelines for distributed energy resources, so essentially the rooftop folks, through incentives and penalties. So you should be lauded for that. But the main focus of this resolution is on the other end of it, which is the utility scale projects, which continue to languish. Can you tell us what exactly are you doing to help move that part of the equation along?
Sure, Senator. First off, last year, the impetus for the interconnection improvements on the distributed side was a letter we put out last March, asking all stakeholders for ideas to how to keep renewable projects on track or expedite during the COVID timeframe. The rooftop solar providers offered those ideas. One of the things we'd also worked on at that time and highlighted was the importance of keeping the stage 1 projects on time. We sent letters about it, we asked questions, and actually we were not informed about the delays until last fall. Since then, we've held 2 stakeholder conferences, again, trying to get course corrections, trying to bring these projects up in time. We've had to then further escalate, open a docket to track all of these. We've had to consider, which we will continue to consider, a variety of different penalties for the reasons that we talked about, that these are going to be, the delays will incur costs, right? And I agree with everything Colton said. These are complicated projects. These are things, they take a lot of stakeholders to work together. We're trying to do a lot at the same time. But when I look at the timelines for these, every one of the stage 1 projects is supposed to be online this year. They've at best been pushed into 2022, some of them into 2023. So, Senator, we have worked in a variety of ways to try and bring course correction to this. And that is what brought us to the discussion we had last week and why we have modified our position on the need for this additional oversight entity. So I believe our position, we've been working hard to try and bring them online. We have not been neglecting this. We have not ignored it. And we can go back and point to all the different steps, and we haven't seen the response that we need. And it has brought us to this position here. We have these resolutions. We're gonna have to take further action.
But at last week's hearing, it was evident that through the HNEI study that there's a real possibility that come September of next year, the island of Oahu is going to face rolling blackouts or have to pay substantially more in energy costs because we're going to pivot to oil. I understand why we're where we are today, but couldn't you have pushed this way earlier, not wait for last March for HECO to tell you, things are troubled and I'm going to have a delay. I mean, these PPAs were granted, if I recall, 3 years ago. Shouldn't there have been better checks along the timeline so that we wouldn't get to this point where the Oahu residents are going to be threatened with rolling blackouts next year?
So we approved, these were approved in 2019, you're correct. We approved them March of 2019 after 3 months. We called the first discussion of that in October of last year, shortly after we were informed in September. Under normal circumstances, that gets people's attention and course correction. And then it didn't happen. So we've had to continue to escalate, including the threat of penalties for the investor-owned utility, which is a very serious matter. We're probably going to have to go to hearing for that. So that the idea is along the way, you're supposed to get an improvement, and we haven't, so we are here. And no one's happy about it. But it's not because we've been sitting here on our hands.
Okay. Thank you, Jay.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have a question
Senator Misalucha?
for Jay. So is this
Sure.
situation also relevant to other neighbor islands as well, or is it just Oahu?
The short answer is yeah. The delays affect these first projects and 2 rounds of projects are scheduled for Maui Island, for Hawaii Islands. We have other efforts underway for Molokai Lanai also, but which have been delayed. So yeah, the delays will affect bringing those projects online. Now the more acute matter is the one that Chair Wakai talked about, that we have a timeline for retiring the coal plant on this island. It's a very immediate need to bring these projects forward to replace that. The next island up for this will be Maui Island, where the planned retirement, the Kahului power plant. That's further into the future, but the 2-year delay on the solar project there pushes things right up against that timeline. So at the very least, residents are gonna have to pay more if oil prices go up. We'd be clear that it all depends on the relative price of oil versus the price of these solar projects, but betting on that it's exactly what we're trying to avoid. So it will affect the folks on those islands as well.
Okay, thank you.
Members, any other questions?
Yeah.
Sure, if I could.
I think Rep. Lee wants to go in, but.
No, go ahead.
Sorry,
Something-
Rep. Lee. My question is Hawaiian Electric. Are you guys still on? So you heard the PUC basically and Senator Wakai's concerns. What are your plans to keep costs down in the event, because the coal plant in Oahu is closing down? I mean, do you folks have any plans? Are you guys gonna redo the PPA with the existing renewable energy people so that they can increase their power with, what's your plan? Or is your plan basically to increase rates to residents?
So Senator, thank you for the question. So our plan to keep costs as low as possible have many pieces. As Chair Griffin mentioned, a big part of it are to bring the stage 1 and the stage 2 projects online. That comes from the renewable energy that these PV and storage projects provide. But another element that's also part of the stage 1 and stage 2 projects that can help bring costs down is the grid-connected standalone battery that's part of the stage 2. It didn't get, it's unlike the other projects in that it doesn't have a renewable energy generation component to it, but in our bid and in the evaluation and our analysis overseen by the PUC's independent observer, that resource helps to improve the efficiency of how we run all generators on their system, fossil fuel and renewable, and run the grid more efficiently. So that can also help bring costs down over the life of the project, considerably so. And we are taking efforts, I think it's been well publicized, to reduce our operational costs, right? And the performance-based regulation mechanism that the Hawaii PUC aggressively developed and issued orders done. Now we have that in place today. Will create very strong incentives and disincentives for us to keep our costs down as well, beyond the cost to generate electricity. But those are just a few examples of where keeping costs down, the cost of electricity to our customers, comes from not only having good, cost-efficient generating resources, but the operation of the grid in total as efficiently as possible, and including how we perform our day-to-day duties as cost-effectively as possible as well.
So just a follow-up. So are you assuring us, because we have you on tape, that there are not going to be any rolling blackouts and you're not going to ask PUC for any rate increase because of your delays? Because we're going to hold you to it, what you just said.
So Senator, under the performance-based regulation, I believe there's a 5-year period where we don't have an opportunity to increase rates under that new form of regulation that we have. We basically have, for lack of a better term, right, a set allowance in which we have available to us to do our job.
Okay.
In terms of blackouts, Senator, if we do receive the approval of all of the stage 1 and stage 2 projects that we have put before the commission, that not only produces renewable energy to help with costs, but gives us dispatchable capacity in the form of the batteries that are part of them, or in the case of the standalone battery, that's one of the projects in stage 2, then in all of our analyses, based upon the current schedules, even with the delays that we faced thus far, even with the current schedules for all of these projects, if we do get these projects, our generation capacity meets and exceeds our current standards. And if you happen to see the video from last week's PUC status conference, I think HNEI, Hawaii Natural Energy Institute's consultant, sort of confirmed that with that amount of energy in there, the reliability calculations are as good, if not a little bit better, than what we currently have today.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Lee, did you have a question?
Oh yeah, thank you. Just following up for Jay, if you're still here.
He's still here.
I'm still here, don't worry. No one's running it.
Just following up on this conversation, I haven't gotten into the weeds on this, mostly just been what we've seen in the paper, but is this a situation where we have this timeline and necessary capacity replacement analogous to Con Ed situation back in the day when the utility also came in with like a $1.2 billion similar sort of upgrade that was necessary, but ultimately it was sort of farmed out to third parties to come up with alternatives which were significantly cheaper. I mean, are we at a point where it's possible to look at other alternatives? And I ask that because we have a significant amount of behind the meter storage and other stuff out there that we've all paid for, right? Our tax credits have invested in this kind of capacity. So is the PUC, I think, at a point where that can be leveraged as an alternative to sort of a massive ratepayer investment? I mean, do we have programs that we can stand up right now which are already capable without putting another dollar in, so to speak, in actual infrastructure?
Thank you, Senator Lee, for the question. I want to tackle that and Vice Chair Misalucha's question, maybe a little bit of context. Colton's correct. If the commission approves everything that's been submitted on paper, there should be enough reserve. But what we've been keeping an eye on, there's no guarantee all those projects get online on time. Mm-hmm. I asked Colton's staff member back in October, if we approve the project today, can you guarantee for us that that'll be online next September? And no one can, because these are complicated projects. There's lots of things that can happen. So we need a variety of different programs and contingencies for each one of these in case they fall through, as we saw with all these first phase projects. And that, Senator Lee, what you're talking about is exactly what the commission asked for. We've asked for stakeholders to bring more ideas to the table so we have more backup plans. We held a meeting yesterday with the different solar parties to look at how we can do exactly as you're talking about. leverage all the solar and battery systems that have already been put out in the field. Tens of thousands, more than any other state, each of these islands, more than any other island, any other utility in the country. So we're looking to see how we can rapidly bring that online in the next year, 2 years to alleviate some of these concerns. Today, we'll be receiving comments from all the different parties for other ideas, and we're going to look at putting as many of those into action so we have a variety of different fallback plans. That's not what we were presented with. We were presented with, we all had to fall back on one large project, which may or may not happen on time. And I disagree with Colton's comment on the cost. The cost, at least to me, looking at it from the beginning, is significant. And that is why the commission has struggled in the review of that project. And so, Senator Lee, thank you for the question. We are moving on all these actions, and we're going to continue to make sure that it has the urgency that the matter necessitates. Thank you.
Thanks. And Chair, if I could just follow up by saying, you know, what I know of this, because I've been out of this energy space for a while now, but is what we're reading in the paper. Can we ask the commission to come back and maybe report back with what those alternatives look like?
We're way ahead of you.
Okay.
We're going to put that in the resolution.
Okay, thank you.
And the answer is absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on this particular resolution? That CPN is the lead. We are going to transition before we do decision-making straight into the other joint where EET is the lead. It's EET/CPN. And I will turn it over to the Vice Chair of EET. Is that the correct formulation here? Okay.
Thank you.
To let us know what the subject of concurrent resolution 223 SR 183 is.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to also acknowledge the presence of our chair here, Glenn Wakai. Just wanted to make sure. So this SCR 248 for where Commerce and, Committee on...
No, you're on SCR 223 SR 183.
Sorry. SCR 223/SR 183 requesting the Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism to conduct a study to examine the use and effects of transaction medium equity, which includes electronic transactions and cash transactions on consumers and businesses in the state of Hawaii. For this one, we have 3 people who have submitted testimonies. We have Len Higashi testifying for DBED and for comments, and I see him on screen, so go ahead, Len.
Thank you, chairs and members of the committee. Yes, it's Len Higashi, and I'm testifying on behalf of DBED today. And we stand on our written comments available for questions.
Okay, thank you, Len. We also have Crystal Wright testifying for Cardronics. Is Crystal available?
Hi, Senator. She's not present.
Oh, okay. And then we have also received a testimony from Raiden Iwamoto. And I believe he submitted testimony in support of this measure. I think with that said, does any members have any questions for Len, who's the only one available right now? Okay. Well, I was hoping to have Crystal here, but I guess, so Len, I just wanted to maybe ask you a little bit about whether there's any local data. I know we have federal data that analyzes what the situation is and whether cash or non-cash transactions for the state of Hawaii. I know there's federal data available, but do we have any local data?
Sorry, Senator, we don't have that specific information. DBED does have a credit report, which is available on the DBED Read website. Happy to follow up with you and provide that.
Okay, are you aware whether there's any federal law that mandates businesses to just accept non-cash transactions, or I guess I'm trying to make sure that we have, you know, communities that are actually not able to necessarily transact business with a card. We're talking about kupunas and maybe new immigrants.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the federal law.
Okay, no worries.
Part of our testimony was we don't have expertise in this area.
I see, okay.
Thank you.
I see Crystal there. Crystal, would you be able to respond to that question about federal law that whether businesses are mandated to either accept cash or non-cash?
Yes, I'm happy to do that. I'm sorry I'm a little tardy. I know you were on another hearing, but I manage external relations and community outreach for Cardtronics, which is the largest ATM operator in the world. And there is no federal law mandating that a business in the United States of America must accept cash. And it goes back to the Department of Treasury's interpretation of the 1965 Coinage Act. So that's the answer to that question. I'm happy to elaborate what other states and municipalities have been doing to protect cash as a payment choice since 2018, if you'd like me to.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay. And this is an issue that Cardtronics has been advocating on behalf of Americans, the right that they should be able to choose how they pay. And we're not saying that cash should be favored over electronic payments or Bitcoin or any other product. But back in 2018, in response to the escalation of small and national businesses in America implementing cashless only policies, this goes for food stores, you know, people who sell Casper mattress doesn't accept cash. It runs the gambit here. And in response to that, and I'm just talking about brick and mortar purchases. We're not talking about mail, internet, or telephone. In response to the rise in businesses refusing to accept cash from the customer at retail, you have had states and cities take action to, I think the number we're at now is about 30 bills since that time. And I'm happy to tick those states off if you would like me to, but of the 30 bills that have been introduced since 2018, you have had the District of Columbia, Berkeley, California, New Jersey, New York City, Philadelphia, Rhode Island, and San Francisco and West Hollywood enact laws banning businesses from not accepting cash for brick and mortar purchases only. And Massachusetts was the first state in the Union in 1978 to enact a cashless prohibition law.
How has the pandemic affected the transactions?
Well, there has been an escalation in businesses not accepting cash based on the misconception that currency transmits COVID, which there is no scientific evidence to support that. In fact, Square did a study. You all are familiar with Square. You probably used Square when you had to pay for things. Square did a study, and what they found was that once the pandemic hit in the spring of last year, 31% of businesses no longer accepted cash. And that went up from about, I think, less than 8%, according to their study. But yet the same study also asked small businesses if they would ever, what do you think about a federal law mandating that you accept cash? And 51% of these small businesses actually said that they would support a federal law mandating they accept cash.
Is there an effort at this time on the federal level?
Yes, actually there is. Last year there were two bills, one introduced in the Senate and one introduced in the House of Representatives. Actually, the House, they're both called the Payment Choice Act. And Representative Donald Painter, New Jersey, they're both bipartisan bills, and Republican Chris Smith introduced the one in the House, and then Senator Menendez and Senator Kramer, Democrat and a Republican respectively introduced the bill in the Senate. I do know that Representative Payne is going to reintroduce his bill for this Congress, if not within, I would say, the next 30 days or so, and we're in communication with their office. I would say that the House bill gained a lot of traction. It was introduced in 2019, and it had significant bipartisan support.
So I have a question.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Okay,
Senator
because,
Sanford.
are you done with your
Yes,
series?
we're done,
Okay.
yeah.
So I have a question to the last person, not Crystal, who is Cardtronics.
Len.
Len. Is Len with DBED?
Yes.
So he's
His
somebody who-
HTDC.
HTDC. So
Well,
here's
I'm
my question.
HTDC, but I'm here for DBED today.
Okay, so here's my question. Basically, it sounds like the one person who is doing all the testifying is promoting cash use. If we require cash use, are we then telling businesses like Amazon, and I think who basically is just using cashless and using their Amazon Prime, that they cannot do business in the state of Hawaii?
No, it's brick and mortar only.
So Amazon is a brick
No,
and
no,
mortar?
No.
This particular resolution only addresses for brick and mortar.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, can I
But go
finish
ahead.
my question then?
Go ahead.
So there are businesses, I mean, like Amazon does have a brick and mortar that will allow Amazon Prime, and I've been to them on the mainland,
But they're not
Not here.
which is basically, it's a cold cashless system, where basically you pick out whatever it is you want to buy, and so long as you enter the store with your Amazon Prime number, everything you had picked in your basket is automatically computed. Are you then, if we decide to pass a law that requires cash, are we then telling Amazon that they cannot have their Amazon cashless stores here in Hawaii?
I'm happy to.
No, I'm asking him, okay?
Oh, I'm sorry. I have an answer if you would like me to provide one too.
Thank you, Senator. I mean, my interpretation of the reso is that this is an issue that you're asking for DBED to provide more information on, including, standards and what it means. So I think your question is understood, but what I read in the reso is not requesting to change the law. It's requesting for data to make that decision.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
It just sounded so one-sided. I wanted to hear another side to it. Thank you.
Can we have, though, respond to that? Because again, the brick and mortar is an important part. Go ahead, Crystal, can I ask you that?
No, and I respect what your question, and I also I want to be very clear that Cardtronics is in no way saying that businesses should accept cash over other payments. As you know, our ATMs operate off cards and also mobile cell phones and mobile wallets. We have a lot of strong partnerships with neobanks and fintech banks. We just think fundamentally it should be the consumer's decision to decide how they want to pay, especially for older Americans and immigrants and unbanked and underbanked Americans and people who are brown and look like me, brown and black people who are disproportionately unbanked and underbanked. I'm not one of them, but we think with respect to your question about Amazon Go, I will tell you that in New York City, there was a boycott led by Representative Ocasio-Cortez, and she believed that when there's food deserts in certain part of New York City, she and others were very troubled that Amazon Go grocery stores would not accept cash. So in response to that, and this is just going, to brick and mortar stores, they decided to accommodate cash customers, I think, with maybe reverse ATMs or some other mechanism. But this has come up in the discussion around the cashless, I would say, debate. And Amazon, at the end of the day, felt that they didn't want to turn customers away who were coming in to buy food. So they decided to retreat in their groceries, as you pointed out, their Amazon Go brick and mortar stores. They decided in New York City, at least, to retreat from that position.
Okay, thank you, Crystal. Any more questions from members? Okay, hearing none, I think we can recess for decision making.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We are ready to do decision-making on the resos that were in our committees, our joint committees. CPN and EET, the 10 o'clock agenda had resos, Senate Concurrent Resolution 248 and Senate Resolution 207 that had to do with the Public Utility Commission adopting reliability and interconnect standards and requirements to facilitate the timely interconnection of utility-scale renewable energy projects. We had a really good discussion with the PUC. The chair will recommend to our joint committees that we pass this pair of resos with amendments, adding a report to the legislature after the April 2021 status conference, a report to the legislature prior to the convening of the 2022 legislative session. And in that report, any recommendations for any additional legislation or legislative action that may be required. We are requesting the PUC to provide legislation for introduction next session that amends HRS 269-146 and provide an update to the legislature on the results from the governor's task force, just in case he doesn't provide them, and any follow-up made by the PUC in the interim or at least 30 days prior to the convening of the 2022 legislative session. And if that's not clear with the PUC, we will help them with further clarity, but that's the gist of the recommendations. Any questions or comments? If not, chair votes aye.
Senator Chang.
Aye.
Senator Misalucha.
Aye.
Nishar goes aye. Senator Rivera.
Aye.
Senator San Buenaventura.
Aye.
Senator Favela.
Excuse. Thank you,
Motion is
members.
adopted.
Same recommendation for Senate Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism. Senator Wakai, would you kindly call the roll?
My pleasure. I vote yes. Senator Misalucha.
Aye.
Senator Lee.
Aye.
Senator Revere.
Aye.
Senator Favela is excused. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. So for SCR 223/SR 183 for Senate Committee on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism, the chair recommends pass with amendments. Right now, there's national data on the consumer payment choice, but locally we do not, and so we can't really craft legislation or learn more about the issues without that. So the amendment would be to change in title and in all instances throughout the resolution, replacing Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism with LRB. And I think that's it. And chair recommends pass with amendments.
Well, I do have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So when you mean that there's national data,
I can.
who did the national data? Because I don't think there was testimony.
No.
It's not on the
Yeah.
record.
DBED said that they had,
They have.
that there,
There
Lynn,
was some.
that there was national data.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So sorry.
And I can forward that to you. They
Okay.
send it to us, yeah.
Okay.
Send it to me.
So we're just trying to get them to localize it, so we've got some context for what's happening.
Right.
Okay, sounds good.
And it's actually with the division. Okay, so having said that, again, the chair recommends pass with amendments. Senator Wakai, would you kindly call the vote?
My pleasure. I vote yes. Senator Misalucha.
Yes, aye.
Senator Lee.
Aye.
Senator Rivera.
Aye.
Senator Favela is excused. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
And I believe that brings us to the. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so used to going first. My apologies. Yes, the same recommendation to the Committee on Commerce Consumer Protection. Chair votes aye. Passed with amendments on SCR 248, SR 2.
Senator Chang.
Aye.
Senator Misalucha.
Aye.
Deshar goes aye. Senator Revere. Aye. Senator Ventura.
Aye.
Senator Favela is excused. Motion is adopted.
Okay, are we done now?
Yes,
All right,
finally.
Karen.